The Dyatlov Pass Incident, Ural Mountains, Russia, 1959. The case of a compelling natural force. February 1959, the Ural Mountains, 9 experienced hikers, and a final report that would read, "Death caused by a compelling natural force." What does that even mean? Welcome back to Unsolved Web, where we untangle the mysteries that refuse to stay buried. Tonight, we step into the snow. Section 1. The setup. 9 hikers, students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. This wasn't reckless thrill-seeking. They were experienced, certified, trained. Their goal? Reach Otorten Mountain, a demanding but achievable winter expedition. One member turned back early due to illness. That decision saved his life. The remaining 9 pushed forward into brutal winter terrain. They were expected back by February 12th. They never arrived. Section 2. The discovery. Weeks later, search teams located their campsite. What they found didn't just raise questions, it shattered logic. The tent? It had been slashed open from the inside. Shoes, coats, supplies, still inside. Footprints led away from the tent, some walking, some running, barefoot, or in socks, into temperatures nearing minus 30 degrees Celsius, minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Why would experienced hikers abandon shelter in that lethal cold and half-dressed? Section 3. The bodies. The first 2 bodies were found beneath a cedar tree, in underwear, signs of a small fire nearby. 3 more were discovered between the tree and the tent, as if they were attempting to return. Cause of death? Hypothermia. But the final 4, they were found months later in a ravine under deep snow. And this is where the case becomes disturbing. Massive skull fractures, crushed rib cages, injuries comparable to a car crash, yet almost no external wounds, no defensive marks, no signs of a fight. One hiker, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue and eyes and part of her lips. Another was missing eyebrows and other soft tissue. Traces of radiation were found on some clothing, but no explanation tied it all together. Section 4. The theories. Over the decades, explanations have flooded in, each solving one piece, each breaking 5 more. Avalanche. In 2020, Russian authorities concluded it was a slab avalanche. It explains panic, it explains leaving the tent, but there were no convincing avalanche traces documented at the time. The tent wasn't buried deeply, footprints were intact, and avalanches don't typically cause internal crush injuries without external trauma. Military testing radiation, sealed files, reports of orange lights in the sky that night, possible parachute mines or weapons testing. The Soviet Union was deep in Cold War secrecy, but no declassified evidence has definitively linked military involvement. Mansi tribespeople. Initial suspicion fell on the local Mansi, but investigators found no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, no motive. The theory was dismissed. Infrasound panic. A rare wind phenomenon creating low-frequency sound waves, theoretically capable of inducing irrational fear, but it remains unproven. And would it cause 9 experienced hikers to flee into death? UFO sightings. Orange glowing spheres were reported in the sky by other groups that same night, documented but unexplained. And unfortunately, correlation isn't proof, yet it lingers. Psychological breakdown. Mass hysteria? Simultaneous mental collapse? Unlikely, especially among trained mountaineers. Section 5. What makes it terrifying? These weren't amateurs. They didn't panic easily. Something made them cut their way out of safety. Something drove them into the freezing darkness. The injuries suggest tremendous force. The official files were sealed for decades, and the final report didn't blame avalanche, or crime, or equipment failure. It simply said, a compelling natural force. For over 60 years, that phrase has echoed like wind across snow. What force? What happened in those hours between midnight and dawn? Section 6. The final hours. We don't know exactly what woke them. We don't know what they heard or saw, but we know this. They didn't unzip the tent calmly. They cut their way out. That's panic. Deliberate, immediate, irreversible. They left boots behind. They left their heavy coats. They stepped into a wind chill that could kill in minutes. And they didn't scatter randomly. Some tried to make a fire. Some tried to return to the tent. Some moved toward the ravine. They were thinking. They were making decisions, which means whatever happened didn't instantly incapacitate them. It drove them out. Section 7. The phrase that won't die. The official report didn't name a killer. It didn't name a clear disaster. It didn't even firmly name an avalanche. It concluded the hikers died due to a compelling natural force. Not specific, not measurable, not defined, just compelling. A force strong enough to make 9 trained mountaineers abandon shelter in sub-zero darkness. A force strong enough to crush ribs without breaking skin. A force that left no clean narrative behind. For over 60 years, that phrase has done what the mountain did. It refuses to explain itself. So, what happened on that slope in the Ural Mountains? Was it an avalanche misunderstood? A rare natural phenomenon? A classified experiment? Or something we still don't have the language for? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you're drawn to cases where logic fractures under pressure, then subscribe to Unsolved Web. Hit the bell. Because some mysteries aren't unsolved due to a lack of evidence. They're unsolved because the truth may not fit the story we're comfortable telling. I'll see you in the next thread of the web.